Hello students and welcome to our class today. Our class today is going to focus on the weighted average methods of calculating the index numbers, but for today our focus will be on the other type of the weighted index number, which is all about the family budget method. We looked at the weighted average method whereby we discussed about the four techniques that we can use to calculate the price index numbers. That is the last pairs. We have the Pasteur, the Fisher's ideal, and the Marshall-Edgeworth. So we can also calculate the price index numbers using the weighted average of price relative method, commonly known as the family budget method. So in this case, the price index, the price index of current year is given by the formula the summation of IV over the summation of V. The summation of IV over the summation of V. And note that where I is actually what we call the price relative, which is given by P1 over PO times 100%, where P1, it is the price of current year, and the PO is actually the price of base year, Then we have got V here. V is given as the value consumed in base year, which is normally given by PO times QO. So to get V, you multiply PO times QO, and you will be able to get that particular value. So I want us to go to the question that was on your notes so that I can be able to demonstrate how it is done. So we were given the price of 2008, which is actually our PO. The price of 2009 is actually our P1. And then the quantity of 2008, which is actually the base, is going to be the QO, like that. Then what we need to do here, we need to calculate the value of I, which we have said it is P1 over PO times 100. After getting that, we can also get the value of V, which is actually PO times QO. And after doing that, now we can get our IV at the end of this particular column here, where IV, it is simply the value of I times the value of V for us to be able to fill this particular column. So let us see how this table can be filled. Remember, this is our P1, this is our PO. So if we can divide P1 over PO, 50 divided by 25, it is 2. 2 times 100, you find that you are going to get this value as 200. This one is 40, P1 over PO, which is 20, which is again 2. 2 times 100 is 200. Then we have got this value, which is 30 divided by 20, and then you multiply by 100. You are going to find it to be 150. Then we have got 18 divided by 10 times 100. You'll find it's going to give you 180. And when we have 40 divided by 30 times 100 is going to give you 150. So those are the values of I, whereby we are dividing the P1 divided by PO, we multiply by 100 for each and every commodities that we have here. That is the meat, fish, vegetables, eggs, and fruits. After doing that, we can get the V, which we said is actually PO times QO. So if you multiply 25 times 100, you are going to realize you are going to get 2500. If you multiply 20 times the QO, which is 30, you are going to arrive at 600. If you multiply the others, you are going to find that this one is going to give you 1,000. Next is also going to give you 1,000. And then the last one is going to give you 1,500. Just multiply the PO times QO, where PO is this column, then the QO is this column. You multiply each and every value in those two columns, and then you are able to fill that. After getting now the I and the V, you can multiply the two columns now to get IV. So it's going to be 200 times 2,500. You will find that this one is going to be 500,000. The next one is going to give you 120,000. This is 120,000. The next one is going to be 150,000. The next one is going to give you 180,000. The next one is going to give you 225,000. So those are actually the values of IV. Then now you will be required to calculate now the sum. You will be required now to get the sum of these particular columns that we need. And the columns that we need are what? The columns that we need, it is the sum of IV. We need to get the sum of the whole of IV, which is this column, and the sum of the V, because that is what the formula requires us to do. The sum of the V, if you add all the V's here, you are going to find that they are going to be 6,600. If you add all the IVs, you are going to get 1,175,000. Now we can go to our formula. 1,175,000 and 6,600. We can go to our formula whereby we were required to calculate the price index. We have the IV and we have the V. Therefore, the price index would be equal to 175,000 over 6,600. If you do this division, you are going to find that it's going to give you 178%. That is how you calculate it. So it is pretty easy the moment you understand the formula and how you are going to get the values of the formula. You will be given the price of the base year, the price of the current year, and the quantity of the base year. Having been given that, now you can come up with these three columns that you are going to build yourself. Have the column for I, which is simply the price of the current year divided by the price of the base year, then you multiply by 100. Then you do the division down the table and make sure you have the I for each and every product. Like for example, here we have the I for the meat, which we arrived at by dividing 50 divided by 25, and then we multiply the answer by 100 to get this. For fish, it is 40 divided by 20, then you multiply by 100 to get this. For vegetables, it is actually 30 divided by 20, you multiply by 100 to get this. For eggs, it is 18 divided by 10 times 100. For fruits, it is 45 divided by 30 times 100. You get that. After getting your I, you can get your V, which is PO times QO. Remember, you have your PO this column, your QO is this column. So just multiply the PO for meat times the QO for meat. You get the V for that product, which is meat. You multiply the PO for fish times the QO for fish. You get the V for fish. You multiply the PO for vegetables times the QO for vegetables, you get the V for vegetable. You multiply the PO for eggs times the QO for eggs, you arrive for the V for eggs. And lastly, you do the same for the fruits, which is 30 times 50, you get that. Note, we are getting here the value that was consumed in the base year. The value is simply the price times the quantity that was consumed for each and every product. The moment you have done that, you can now be able to get the IV, which is the value for I times the value for V for you to get the IV. So IV here stands for I times V. Therefore, you just multiply the two columns that we have, the I column and the V column, to get this. And then you will be adding the column for IV and the column for V, so that you can be able to get the values which you are going to subject to your formula, because the formula needs the summation of IV over the sum over V. Remember, this sign we said simply means the sum. So we need to total the sum of that particular column. We also need the sum of this. The sum, we need to total all the V's and the totals of IVs. Then the solution for them, we divide them and we are able to get the index number for that particular year. Thank you very much.